We're off and running. If you're just joining us, welcome. It's day 2 of the GEC. I'm going to introduce you now to somebody who has traveled the world sniffing out, if I can put it like that. He won't appreciate me describing him as some sort of entrepreneurial truffler, but that's where we've gone. But actually trying to think about what makes entrepreneurs tick. His organization is absolutely fascinating. It's the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. So it follows, I think, Ashish's already excellent theme of mindset and changing how we teach and also how we learn about entrepreneurship. Please welcome to the stage our next speaker, Gary Schoeniger. Where were you when I needed you the most?
Good morning. So thank you for coming here this morning. I'm happy to see some smiling faces early in the morning. I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about the entrepreneurial mindset. I've been on this journey for a long time trying to figure out what makes entrepreneurs tick. I've been trying to figure out how underdogs win. I got this question landed in my brain in 1991. If I could somehow deconstruct the mindset of an entrepreneur, and how is it different from a non-entrepreneur? What is a non-entrepreneurial mindset? That this could be useful to other humans. And it could be useful in myriad ways, not just for people that want to start businesses. It could help people that are languishing, people that are searching for more meaningful and prosperous lives. Maybe they don't want to quit their jobs, but they want to be more engaged. They're looking for more. And this question, this simple question about the entrepreneurial mindset, set me on this journey that's now lasted 34 years and counting. And I started to interview entrepreneurs. People talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. People don't really, it's a big word, but it's not really well understood. In 2008, I was hired by Cisco, the Entrepreneurial Institute at Cisco in San Jose, and they asked me to do a gap analysis on the entrepreneurship education ecosystem. And we very quickly saw that the way entrepreneurship was being portrayed in classrooms, in small business development centers, was divorced from the reality of what a typical entrepreneur is actually doing. And so they gave me some research and a budget and a platform to start interviewing entrepreneurs, and that's where the journey really began in earnest. At the Cisco Research Project, we interviewed about 200 entrepreneurs across the United States. One of the entrepreneurs I met, well, let me back up. If you try this at home, which I encourage you to do, if you interview entrepreneurs, you're going to hear a crazy story, right? It's all over the map. Fits and starts back, forward. And at first I didn't know what I was doing, and I started hearing all these crazy stories, and I didn't know what to make of it. But 20 or 30 interviews in, I started to recognize common patterns of underlying values and taken for granted assumptions of which the entrepreneurs themselves were not likely aware. It became very clear to me that it was these underlying values and assumptions, these deeply held values and assumptions, were leading to the behavior that led to the outcomes, that led to the positive outcomes. I was talking to my security friends this morning, and I was saying to them, after I interview entrepreneurs, very often they'll say to me, geez, I feel like you've been reading my mail. They don't even know they were following a predictable path. They thought they were flying by the seat of their pants. But anyway, I put the slide up there. I don't know where it went. There it is. Went to Kaufman in 2010, met Tom Rue, thank you very much, was our champion at the Kaufman Foundation, wrote a book with one of the entrepreneurs we interviewed created the Ice House Entrepreneurial Mindset program that went all over the world, went far beyond anything we could have possibly imagined, been used in ways we could have never anticipated. What we saw is the appetite for mindset was way, way bigger than startup. The city government of Albuquerque came to us. They wanted to train city government workers how to think like entrepreneurs. We started to have teachers show up. We see that this helps our students become more engaged in learning, more self-directed learning, right? So it started to get used in all these myriad ways. And I realized very quickly that I need to know more. So this book, The Ice House, 8 Life Lessons from an Unlikely Entrepreneur, are essentially these 8 cultural themes that I distilled from interviewing a couple hundred entrepreneurs. Almost immediately, we started to do trainings at the Kauffman Foundation, and people started showing up, and I realized almost immediately that there's more, we got to figure out more. Like, this is anecdotal. This is what I drew out from the interviews of entrepreneurs, but we needed to understand the research. Why do people behave this way? Why do some people behave this way while others don't? And that's what really my new book is about. I continue to interview these underdog entrepreneurs, people that start with nothing, people that don't have any advantage over anyone else. They don't have big inventions. They don't have MBAs. They don't have access to venture capital. But yet they rise above their circumstance. They're creating meaning and prosperity in their lives. They're contributing disproportionately to their communities and their organizations. And so there's 2 things that I really want to drill into just here for a minute. I had to figure out, for this new book, what the hell is a mindset? We all throw that word around. And I started looking at the literature, and where did I go right away? I went to Carol Dweck. Well, she defines mindset as a way of thinking, and I just didn't find that useful. And then I started reading Daniel Kahneman and behavioral economics, and started to understand some cognitive psychology. And it dawned on me one day when I was reading Edgar Schein's work about culture. One of the big epiphanies I had in the writing of this book is that a mindset is to a person what culture is to a group. It's the underlying values, it's our operating system that we use to navigate our daily life. It enables us to think without thinking. And so what I figured out is that the entrepreneurial mindset only seems mysterious to us because we are so steeped in managerial culture. And the underlying values of managerial culture are focused on replication. They're focused on efficiency. They're focused on linearity. It's other-directed, top-down. Most importantly, managerial paradigms are error-reducing paradigms. And we need those paradigms, but they're not conducive to entrepreneurial thinking, which are error-inducing paradigms. So we've got to figure out how to reconcile that. How do we create managerial and entrepreneurial paradigms? How do we learn how to develop? Every young person, every student alive today will need to learn how to do both, have the cognitive dexterity to code switch, to understand which situation you are in and which mindset to apply. If all you have is a managerial mindset, all your problems look like nails. The second thing we had to figure out is what the hell is entrepreneurship? If you look up the definition of entrepreneurship, you're going to see the same definition that's 300 years old from the French dictionary in 1763, Jean-Baptiste Say, right? You're going to see the same definition. It's somebody who organizes and operates a business. Keep in mind, the word entrepreneur, which in Latin means to swim out and to grasp, arose at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution because it was the first time in human history we needed a word that would distinguish between somebody who organized and operated a business and somebody who worked in the business. For whatever it's worth, the word employee came along 100 years later. But what I'm arguing is that distinction is vaporizing in front of our very eyes. We now need people, the person who works in the business needs to think more or less like he owns it. That's the model for success in the new world. There's a new book out from some scholars from Harvard called Employment is Dead. His managerial top-down paradigms are ill-suited for a dynamic AI, hyper-connected world. So I'm going to just kind of land the plane now. I'm going to do a book signing at 11 if you want to learn more. I bought about 100 copies here for people that travel a long way. You can get a copy here. If not, you can buy it wherever books are sold. But I got invited to Harvard when the book came out. I got invited to give a talk about my new book, not at the business school, but at the Human Flourishing program at Harvard. And I walked into the William James Hall, which is the psychology building. That's where my people live, right? That's where Ellen Langer and folks like that live. And I walked in, I was struck by this quote on the wall from William James. It said, "The community stagnates without the impulse of the individual. But without the sympathy of the community, the impulse will die away." That should become the mantra for entrepreneurial ecosystem building. You just put the word entrepreneur in there. What I've learned from studying all these entrepreneurs from all over the world is that the entrepreneurial spirit is the human spirit. It's not just in some of us, it's in every single one of us. I learned this trick from Neil deGrasse Tyson. You know what to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. I'm going to drag you back on stage if that's all right. You know what to do. Thank you, Gary Schoeniger, everybody. Fantastic. I had a quick question.
Yeah.
You are well-traveled. You have studied entrepreneurs around the world. Where do you want to go next, literally, geographically, or conceptually, and why? What's on the roadmap?
I see huge opportunities. Look, this is really, it's a loaded question, right? We're going to get beat, here in the United States, we're going to get beat at our own game if we're not careful. You're never talking about that. I see huge opportunity in the African continent because there's more of a hunger for this kind of learning. I think we're making inroads here in the United States. But the point is that we are creating entrepreneurs by accident rather than by design.
It has to be more deliberate, more design.
Yes.
In that DNA of ecosystem design. Well, I want to talk to you much more about that. Thank you for the offer of the book signing. I know that you will be having many other good conversations throughout the GEC. Gary, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Gary Schoeniger, everybody.